Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head up to Greenland once again, and we're going to round off this kind of three-part mini-series, if you like, from Kayak Brewery in Narsaaq. And what we've done for this review is to save the strongest and darkest beer for last, which is always a good thing to do when you're drinking craft beers. For this review then, we are going to take a little look at their Doppelbock, and this one comes in at 7% ABV. Now, as I've told you before, I'm a huge fan of my traditional German beers, but probably the Doppelbock and the Rauch beers are my favourite styles, if you like. I really fell in love with German beer when I went to visit my friend Daniel in Bamberg for the first time, and then I went to live in Germany, and that really just kind of cemented my love of it. But it's been really cool to review some Greenlandic beers for you here on the channel. To find a German style brewery up there I thought was pretty unusual, but I have been very impressed with the authenticity of these beers. The Dunkel was bang on, the Kulsch had a little bit of a Helles element to it, but it was still a really quite nice beer. So if this one is anywhere near as authentic as those two, I think we are in for a pretty good treat. These are hard styles of beer to brew. They're not brewed all that often, to be honest with you, by non-German breweries, but when non-German breweries get them right, they tend to do it pretty damn well, actually. As I say, if you're watching from Greenland, do give me some other Greenlandic brewery recommendations. It would be great to hear from you guys up there, and as I've said before too, Greenland is definitely on my list of places to visit. I've been to Iceland, but the Faroes and Greenland have been on that list for quite a while, so that's something that I will definitely look at doing over the next couple of years. So really curious to see how this beer turns out. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this little mini-series of Greenlandic beers that I'm doing for you, and I hope that I can do more of them in the fairly near future. A big thank you to my friend Alan as well for making these reviews possible, and a kudos to Kiosk over in Copenhagen for even getting something this random in their shop as well. So really looking forward to trying this one of my favourite traditional styles of German beer, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on it as well. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Kayak Brewery before. Hopefully I can add some more in the fairly near future, but this is the last of them that you'll see for the moment. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. I will make one for the Greenlandic beers that I've reviewed for you, and hopefully I can add to that again at some point in the future, but this probably will be the last Greenlandic beer for a little while. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about the Kayak Brewery then, on to my brewery notes. So Kayak Brewery, as I've mentioned to you before, are based in Narsaaq in southern Greenland, and you can find this little town in the Tunaliarvik Fjord, and it has a population of only around 1,500 people, which makes it the 9th largest town in Greenland, and Greenland is only around 60,000 people or something like that. So it is, despite it being the biggest island in the world, it is a very sparsely populated place, but most of it is tundra and mountains and stuff like that, so you know, that is pretty damn understandable. But the name of this town comes from the local Kalaallisut language, which means plain, and this just refers to the kind of plain meadow type thing that the town actually sits on. And if you look at pictures of the town, it's actually very similar to, it looks very similar to like Iceland or something like that. It's the climate and stuff like that, and the topography, I guess you could say as well, is very similar. But the company itself, Kayak Brewery, was founded back in 2015, and it's owned by Kati and Fredrik Nielsen, who also own the local hotel. One of them is Icelandic and one of them is Greenlandic, but the local brewery that was there before was struggling and it was going to close down, so Fredrik decided that he would buy it and revive it. The previous brewery that was in the building was called the Greenland Brewhouse, and it was founded in December of 2004, and they really pioneered the idea of using water from icebergs to brew their beers, and they were in existence until 2008 when they filed for bankruptcy. But much of the beer in Greenland before this was Tuborg and Carlsberg from Denmark, so basically just cheap export lagers, if you like. So the Kayak Brewery, along with the other 4 or 5 craft breweries that there are now in Greenland, have really had to be very patient and help kind of plant the seeds of a beer culture and you know, the idea of craft beer in Greenland, and they seem to be doing pretty damn well now, I have to say. But the current head brewer at the brewery is Isak Milosavljevic. He's from America, and they also have a German assistant brewer as well, so that's probably the reason why a lot of these beers are pretty damn authentic. authentic. Most of their beers, or all of them rather, are produced using glacier water. And they brew mainly lager beers with a few different ales there as well. From what I remember, there was a red ale, but they had a pilsner. They've got the Coast, the Doppelbock, and the they've got what one did I miss? The Dunkel, the brain fart there. But as of 2019, when I'm filming this review for you, they've produced 11 different types of beer so far. They've got 5 of them in their core range, and they also have a tap room at the brewery as well. As I've said in the other videos, hopefully when I make it up to Greenland, I can go to Narsaaq and do a little on-site tasting and stuff for you. It's always cool to go and try, you know, do these little out and about videos for you. It'd be really cool to film a sort of meet the brewer or meet the owner kind of thing as well. Actually, that would be an awesome little video to put on the channel for you. So maybe that's something for the future. As I say, I do hope to get to Greenland in the next couple of years. But as I've said, that's all you really need to know about Qajaq Brewery at the moment. I did try to email them to get a little bit more information, but I think they were obviously just busy and too busy to reply. Rural life, as I know from my time in the bush in Australia, can be very demanding, so probably they are just busy to too busy to answer a sort of crazy Scottish-Swedish guy who wants information on their brewery. But yeah, a really nice little brewery, this one. As I said before, it's very cool to be able to review some Greenlandic beers for you here on the channel, and hopefully this isn't the last one that I review for you, so we'll need to see how we can get on with that. But yeah, if you want to learn more about the brewery, check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram, of course, to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer and Untappd pages to see all the different kinds of beer that they do. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork before we open this one up. There you can see the traditional ram. The story behind the name Doppelbock, or Bock beer generally, I think it was called like a book before, like B-U-C-K in German, but then this beer style went to Munich, and the Munich people used to make fun of the, I think it was the Saxon dialect, and then of course after that, once it came on, the Munich people would say that it was Bock, and it just sort of stuck. So that was where the name Doppelbock actually came from. It came from a little town in Saxony, from what I remember. And then it was the name was changed when the beer reached Munich. But it says on the side here, this beer is brewed for independent Greenlanders, beer brewed with the ancient glacial water from the Great Ice Cap. Qajaq beer strives to produce a Greenlandic product of utmost quality and authenticity. Qajaq beer is locally produced, which eliminates the import of outside corporate products that drain the island's domestic economy. Local support for this brewery is essential for the success of this Greenlandic-owned company, and we want to thank all the people of all nations who choose to support local brands and products. As always, we ask you to drink responsibly and be merry. And this one again has a little Greenlandic phrase on it. So it says Suna aju naju. So yeah, just to talk about the language of Greenland before, because from what I understand, it is mainly mainly a sort of tribal language, if you like. The ethnic Greenlanders, if you can call them that, are very closely related, from what I understand, to the Inuits and stuff in Canada. So if you ever meet a Greenlander, don't be surprised if they look like the Inuits. There are a few kind of white people up there that have obviously come from Denmark and other places in Scandinavia, because while it's an autonomous region and basically does most of the things itself, the Danish are still responsible for Greenland militarily, from what I understand, although, as I say, most of the government functions. It's essentially an independent country that's part of the Kingdom of Denmark at the same time, if you like. There has been talk of Greenlandic independence recently, but I'm not sure how likely that is to take off. But as I said before, it is somewhere that I really want to visit, and cool to review my first Greenlandic beers for you here on the channel. So without further ado then, let's get this one out and we'll get on with the tasting. Again, this is a little 330ml bottle, and there you can see here is the other one had an import sticker on it, but this one just has the Danish kind of recycle thing. But you can see once again the goat on it. The book, of course, in German means goat, and that's where the name Doppelbock came from. So yeah, let's get this guy out and we will get on with the tasting. Nice little bit of smoke on the opening there, and we'll get this guy out and into the glass. So yeah, this one looks as if it's going to be pretty good. The odd thing was that I remember the Dunkel beer being a little bit darker than this, and I mean, you would think when a Doppelbock is higher in alcohol than a Dunkel, you would think that it would be a little bit darker. The Dunkel was really a very dark chestnutty colour, whereas this one is more along the lines of the mahogany kind of colour that you would expect of a German Dunkel or a Czech Cherny. That's the interesting thing. This is the one type of lager beer that the Czechs don't have a derivative of, or a synonym of. So yeah, kind of interesting that. But as you can see with this beer, if I hold it up to the light, it's poured a really nice kind of mahogany colour. I think that's fair to say, a sort of slightly stained mahogany kind of colour. You can see there's a solid, it was 2/3, it's kind of gone down to a half now, but it was a solid 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say kind of fawn coloured head on this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and you can see a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. The beer itself is quite clear, there's a little bit of haze to it, but overall it does look pretty nice and pretty much what you would expect of a Doppelbock. The main surprising thing for me about this one is that it's lighter in colour than the Dunkel was, which is very unusual because this is higher in alcohol, like I say. But yeah, a nice looking beer, this one. Nothing overly surprising about its appearance. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on. Oh yeah, that comes across quite nicely. What I'll say about this one is this, a nose to me, compared to the other two beers, this one seems a little bit more kind of reserved, if you like, but it does come across as rather authentic at the same time. So straight away you're going to notice a big kind of brown bready quality there. That's the basis of your Doppelbock, a lovely kind of smooth brown bready quality. There's a little bit of a sweet biscuity note to it. You can smell some caramelly brown sugars, and those are slightly toasted, I have to say. Yeah, a little bit, there's a little kind of touch of a woody note in there as well, maybe even a little bit of a nutty quality, but I would say mainly it's a nice smooth brown bready quality. Some quite toasty caramelly brown sugars and a little bit of a biscuity sweetness as well. So the malt base is really authentic. I mean, I would say I would be surprised if it's not Weyermann malts that are in here, but then again there are quite a few different German malt companies, but it definitely has a little bit of that kind of smoothness to it, if you like. But you can really, in this one, I've commented in the other two beer reviews about how clean the water comes across in the flavour. Even in this beer, I do wonder if part of the reason the nose is a little bit more reserved is just because of how kind of pure and clean the water is. I've commented on this before with Icelandic beers and some of the breweries that you find from the very north of Norway and Sweden. But yeah, this beer comes across very, very nicely, I have to say, in terms of its aroma. On the hoppy side of things, you've got a little bit of earthiness there. I would say that the green side of the hops is leaning towards that lighter, grassy side of things. The German hops, of course, the Hallertaus, the Tettnangers, they're very distinctive for that slightly sweet earthiness, the quite bright floral character, and just the nice kind of smooth grassiness, of course. Going by the aroma of this beer, though, I think it's more likely to be Northern Brewer that's in here. That's a very popular hop to use when it comes to Doppelbocks, and the thing that gives it away is just the different parts of the fruity character. And I would also say with Northern Brewer, the floral elements of the beer are just not quite as bright as they might be otherwise. But yeah, this is really pretty nice, I have to say. Yeah, the fruity side of the beer then, there's a little bit of a kind of juicy, datey, not dates maybe, like a sort of pruny quality to this one. Definitely a little bit of a figgy note as well, and also some kind of blackcurranty blackberry notes to the beer also. So yeah, a really, really interesting smelling beer, this one. It does come across as a little bit authentic, or quite authentic I should say, not a little bit, but it's a little bit kind of cleaner and more reserved than you might expect from say like the Eyinger Celebrator or the Paulaner Salvator or any of the other famous Munich Doppelbocks, of course. But a really nice smelling beer, this one. Take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma, but we're going to have a taste of it now and just see how we get on. So this one is the Doppelbock, the last of my kind of 3-part mini-series, if you like, of Kayak beers from Narsaaq in Greenland. Once again, a huge thank you to Alan for making this review possible, and I hope that you guys have enjoyed my first takes on some Greenlandic beer. Let's get stuck into this one. Slanja, Skål, Kasuta, as it is in the Greenlandic language. Cheers. Yeah, again, that's a really pretty damn solid beer. You know, I'm a huge fan of these traditional German beer styles. I can be quite picky with them, but I think once again they've done a good job with this. This is really nice. Yeah, again, that thing that I've said about the other two beers that they have as well, or the other two that I've reviewed for you rather, it does the same thing where it comes across as very clean in the first part of the taste, and then a whole load of things will come out in the aftertaste with this beer. This is beautifully done. You know, it's difficult to get these lager beer styles right. I've said on numerous occasions on the channel that these are very underrated styles of beer, and I wish that more of the craft breweries, more of the modern craft breweries would have a go at them, because if you get them right, they are very good. And one of the criticisms of some of the Swedish ones that I've had, for example, is that they tend to be a bit chocolatey. For me, the Doppelbock is smooth and bready, but it's also got a little bit of that kind of brown sugary note to it. But this is a really nice example of the style, and it's got you just have to be aware of that. The flavours come out slightly differently, I would say, but I really like how this beer goes together. Yeah, that's really, really nice. So yeah, let's try and break the flavour of this one down then. So middle of your palate, you can feel that nice kind of brown bready quality just blanketing the middle of your tongue, and that sits there, that forms the linchpin of the beer. And when you move a little bit more into the centre of your palate, you can feel a little bit of that oily part in the centre of your tongue. That's where the brown sugars start to come out, and they come out as if they're quite sweet and just slightly syrupy, to be honest with you. I mentioned in the Dunkel review that I thought that beer had a little bit of a longer boil just because of the way the brown sugars came out, and as well the fact that it was quite dark in its colour. This one, I do think that normally you do a Doppelbock with a 90-minute boil, and this one kind of tastes, the brown sugars in this one don't taste quite as caramelised as they did in the Dunkel, right enough. But this is really, the balance between the brown sugars in this beer and the breadiness is really nice. The brown sugars in here are a little bit more sweet and more caramelly rather than anything else. Yeah, this is, as I say, this is just a really nice example of the style actually. When you go into the very centre of your palate, that's where you'll get the strongest, most kind of caramelised brown sugary note, and it's as you move further out from the centre of your palate, it's a little bit more kind of biscuity and things like that. You will get a little bit of a biscuity element to this beer, but not overly much. It does get bready very, very quickly. You can feel a little touch of the Pilsner malt in the middle of your palate too. If you go right towards the back of the tongue, you can just feel that little bit of crispness coming out of this beer. Likewise, if you go forward from the very centre of your palate, you'll pick out just a tiny little hint of a nutty flavour, and if you go to the front corners of your palate and in a little touch, you'll get a wee bit of a slightly woody undertone to this beer. But the malt base has the smoothness and the brown sugary qualities that you would expect of a German Doppelbock. I mean, this one, to be honest with you, actually reminds me quite a bit of the Weihenstephaner Corbinian. You know, the Weihenstephaner Corbinian had that same kind of cleanness to it, but obviously with the glacial water that they're using in this beer, this one kind of tops it in terms of cleanliness, if you like. Probably, I would wonder how comparable this one is to the Einstök Doppelbock from Iceland. You know, it's kind of a similar idea. That one I remember being very, very clean as well. It's been what, about 5 years since I reviewed that beer, but you know, this one is a really nice example of the style. It is very well done. Yeah, in terms of the hoppy side of things, then in the back corners of the palate you get that lovely little bit of smooth earthiness that you would expect of the German hops. Like I say, I think it's Northern Brewer that's in here, but as you come further forward you can feel that nice little earthiness spreading forward along the side of the tongue. You'll get a little touch of a floral aromaticity as you reach the front corners of your palate, then around the very front curve of the tongue it's just that little bit more kind of light and grassy. Then behind the front curve of the palate you've got that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters start to push their way out of the beer, and this is where the beer's a little bit different compared to some of the other German ones that I've come across. So yeah, I think this beer, it has a little bit of a kind of pruny quality to it. The red fruits in this, they just come across as being a little bit more juicy than some of the other ones that I've had before. A little bit more oily as well, to be honest, but very quickly that kind of pruny flavour, it evolves to be more kind of figgy, and that just blankets that front part of your tongue, and the further you go into the aftertaste, you start to get this kind of blackcurranty, blackberry-ish flavour out of the beer, but some of that kind of datey note is kind of lingering there. I do wonder again if that's a little bit of an effect of the glacial water that's in this. Water, in my opinion, it really can affect the flavour of the beer. I mean, it's all about your taste buds, of course, are all electronic and things, but it's you know, it's the transfer of minerals and stuff, and different waters will have different mineral contents and things. So yeah, I mean, the flavour of this beer, I think, really is affected by just how clean the water in this feels. So it's really interesting to try. This could well be, and I don't want to say for certain, but it could well be the Doppelbock made with the most pure water in the world, actually. So yeah, really interesting one to try. So if you get the chance to try this, if you like this style, definitely have a go at it. To me, it's very authentic. It's just the way the flavours come out is slightly different, because you get the same thing with this, when you first try this beer. It comes across as very clean, and you get a lot of the flavours kind of coming out in the aftertaste. On Untappd, this one's rated, I think it's underrated for what it is, and I would say the same about both the Kolsch and the Dunkel. The only thing I would say with the Kolsch is that it does have a few Helles elements to it, in my opinion. But I think these beers from Kayak Brewery are underrated on Untappd, because when it comes to the lager styles of beer and the German styles of beer, for me it's all about authenticity. You don't often find people, you know, trying to brew like a triple dry hopped Pilsner or anything like this, you know, or a triple dry hopped Helles. The Pilsner's a Czech style of beer, but you don't get people experimenting in the same way with this style as you would an IPA, for example. And for me, it's all about the level of authenticity, and Kayak, in all three of the beers that I've tried, have done very, very well with that. So you really, if you're a fan of these traditional German styles of beer like I am, then you will enjoy the beers from this brewery. I'd like to try the red ale as well, which probably seems like it would be more of a kind of American sort of style, a more hoppy style of beer. But yeah, in terms of authenticity, this beer gets a massive thumbs up from me, and you know, I'm hard to impress when it comes to the Dunkels and the Doppelbocks and stuff, because I lived in Germany and used to drink these very regularly. But I think they've done an awesome job with this, so I doff my cap to Kayak Brewery for these beers. In terms of the mouthfeel then, and this is where it's different from a German one, we'll say that. So, this beer I think is at the top end of mid-bodied. Carbonation is really, really smooth in this. The mouthfeel, it does have that oiliness that you expect of a Doppelbock, but the cleanliness, the sort of clean feeling you get from the water in this one does give you a really nice wetness to the beer as well. In terms of hoppy bitterness, I think you're lucky if you get 10 IBUs out of this. The malt base is lovely and smooth, but it does get a little bit sweeter. The further you go into the aftertaste, you can really feel it leaning towards those nice kind of caramelised brown sugars, and the fruity side of this beer is really nice too. I think that sort of more oily quality that the water's given the fruits really plays a big role in this beer. But an awesome example of the Doppelbock style, and I think they've done an awesome job generally with these different styles of German beer that they do. When they've got a German assistant brewer, it's not surprising that they're doing these very well, to be honest. But I'm sure Isaac, the American guy, is very, very good as well. I'll be curious to know why it's mainly German styles of beer that they're brewing. But overall, it's a really nice beer, this, and if you get the chance to try it, I highly recommend that you do, particularly if you like the Doppelbock style. So yeah, let's just leave it at that for this one, and we'll round off this kind of three-part mini-series of Greenlandic beers. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Kayak Brewery as well. And if you're watching from Greenland, do please give me some other beer and brewery recommendations. Like I said, I do hope to visit Greenland within the next couple of years. It's been on my list for a little while, and I would absolutely love to come and see your country. But yeah, check out my social media, and thank you again for watching. Slanje, Skål, Kasuta. Make sure you check out these Kayak beers from Narsaaq in southern Greenland. A huge thank you to Alan once again for making these possible. I'm going to go away and enjoy the rest of this beer now. Until the next time, Slanje just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slanje, Skål, Kasuta.